Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Alissa. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I'm here with Jordan Stasinowsky from Mary's Vine to talk about wine as an investment. Jordan, tell us a little bit about Mary's Vine and why you started this business and how it's going.
Absolutely. And thank you, Alissa, for having me here today. So Mary's Vine is a wine lounge, first and foremost. We built it out of an old 1903 Croatian Catholic church. We did most of the renovations ourselves as a family. So it's my mother and father and my sister and her husband. And so we all came together as a family, utilizing our individual skill sets to create a fantastic place for a relaxing evening, date night, Sunday brunch. We try to specialize in the wine atmosphere. We carry over 550 different wines by the bottle now, and that list continues to grow. In fact, I just added 4 more this morning to the list, so it continues to grow. And we have 73 wines by the glass. We just want to give wine the opportunity to be presented in the best light possible, from high-end stemware to comfortable seating to a relaxing atmosphere. The wine speaks for itself. And so we wanted to give that opportunity to every single person that comes through our doors.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that because I've been there probably since the beginning, known you since you started it, and had a chance to see the church when it really didn't even have a roof and then become what it has been now. So you guys have did an absolutely incredible job rebuilding it and restoring it and just making it a beautiful, comfortable place. And I mean, my husband and I certainly love coming there. So,
well, thank you.
So you, shortly after I met you, I know you got your sommelier license, and correct if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's French, so you kind of just start pronouncing it and blend it together. Right. Sommelier.
Yeah, so that's quite a process from what I've heard. So what does that mean and how does it distinguish you?
Yeah, so I actually started with the San Francisco School of Wine. I attended there and I got my CSW, Certified Specialist of Wine certification. This is a certification that kind of goes into the nitty-gritty about wines with regards to how they are made, through how we as humans perceive them, how you perceive them on the palate, ability to kind of blind test wines and exposure to different regionalities, how climate affects the wine with regards to the acidity and the structure and the ripeness. And then I started working my way through the Court of Master Sommeliers, also known as CMS. There's 4 levels with that. I was actually supposed to take my 2nd level right before COVID hit, but because they are self-study courses, essentially they say, hey, read these 16 books and learn how to blind test these 150 different varietals from these 15 different countries, and then we'll see you in person in 6 months to see if you are able to pass the test. Unfortunately, all of those testing centers were closed due to COVID, so I actually still need to pass level 2. So I'm just been kind of trying to stay up to date with the books and refresh my memory, because it's been 3 years now since the last time I attempted to go for level 2. But by the time you get to level 4, also known as the Master Sommelier license, there's maybe 200 people in the United States since the 1970s, when it came to the United States, that have ever even passed that certification. And those gentlemen and ladies are absolutely the most knowledgeable about wine people. They've forgotten more than I will ever know about wine, because they have dedicated 15 plus years of their lives just to studying wine. And that's about the estimated time it takes to finish it out. So I don't think I'll go quite that far, but I at least need to book and take the level 2 certification. But essentially it just gives you great fundamentals in wine and really gets you in the mind of focusing on wine and exploring and trying new things. Personally, in the last 5 years, I've tried maybe 15 to 20,000 different wines. And just going out and trying and exposing yourself to different wines is the best education you can do. I realized very quickly on that the more I study wine, the less I know. And every day I'm learning something more about wine.
It's pretty incredible with my limited experience with wine. And then you think about all of the countries and all of the varieties, and just like you said, how many different bottles there are out there. So
absolutely
it's great. And I know you'll kill the exam when you take it.
Hope so.
So wine has not typically been discussed as an investment option, although we do have a real asset strategy that we use that holds a small portion in some vineyards in the United States. So it definitely is an investment. And I know you came from the investment world before transitioning to Mary's Vine. So are there indices that track wine?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most common one is the London International Vintners Exchange, also known as the LiveX. Think of that as the S&P 500 of the wine world. They have actually several different indices, but the most common one is the Fine Wine 1000, which is a tracker of 1,000 of what they determine to be the top wines in the world today. And that's across multiple vintages and multiple producers. To put it into perspective, right now, the LiveX, as of close of the indices last month, was up 8% for the year and up 25% year to date. So they really do track it like you would the stock market. Keep in mind, though, that's thousands of wines blended together. It's a true indices, so just purchasing one individual wine isn't necessarily going to yield that result. But there's also other ones. Sotheby's, the famous auction house, has their own wine index, and they actually love to try to compare it to the S&P 500 to track it all the time and show, hey, we beat the S&P 500 if you invested, but they fail to disclose if you just reinvested dividends in the S&P 500, it almost always still beats out.
Right.
So there's no guarantee with wine, but there's absolutely indexes that you can go out and track to find. But realistically, it's not as strong as the S&P 500 in that there's something real in terms of fundamentals back in it. It's literally based off of auction house prices. So year to year, you can see drastic fluctuations.
That's interesting. And yeah, I mean, there obviously, like any investment or index that you follow, the past result is not going to guarantee the future. Like you said, it can be volatile and move around. But I think for people that really love wine, and maybe they have a lot of resources, and right now they're looking for opportunities to kind of diversify outside of traditional investment, I think that's a really interesting opportunity, to consider. It's no different than, if people are really into art or some other type of collectible. So can you walk us through the ins and outs of what investing in wine looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three basic ways that you can invest in wine. The first one is to literally purchase the bottles yourselves. So you could attend an auction house or purchase online. Of course, this requires a lot of research up front because you have to know what types of wines, age and increase with value. These are typically going to be higher end quality producers that also produce lower yields. Just like anything else in the market, the more scarce it is, the more expensive it tends to be. So there's some really big Burgundy houses and some really big left bank Bordeaux houses that limit their production to keep their prices high. Vintage is a big part as well. If the vintage isn't ranked very highly, that probably wouldn't be a vintage that you would want to seek out. There's historically been maybe 15 vintages in the last 30, 40 years that have been seen as vintages worthy of investment, and they would be considered investment grade wines. And so you really have to pay attention to aging potential. Generally speaking, red wine is going to age for a longer amount of time, a longer time horizon than white wine, but that's not necessarily true across the board. So you have to do a lot of your own independent research. And of course, you have to store the bottles yourself and resist temptation to consume it is probably the hardest part. You're not going out and physically eating your stocks. You might accidentally drink your bottle of wine that you've been cellaring. So that's kind of one of the cons is the storage, setting up a proper cellar that maintains 55% 55 degrees Fahrenheit and 74% humidity can be expensive to construct, as well as you'd want to look into the insurance aspect of it. So that is probably the most basic form of investing in wine. Like one of the classic examples is there was a bottle from the 1980s of Chateau Latour that originally sold for $40, and now those bottles go around $4,000 or so. But as you can see, it's a very long time horizon, 40-something years to receive that 100x multiple. And there's absolutely no guarantee that it is going to go up. But if you like having a physical, tangible asset that you can see in your cellar, wine can be a nice investment strategy for that. The second is known as the Bordeaux Futures Program, or the en premier system, which just means first in French. This is the ability for vintners who have just harvested their wines and just started the post-maceration phase, right when the wine's about to enter the barrel. They determine their pricing for that particular vintage ahead of time, and they sell you the futures on that wine that won't be released for 2 to 5 years still in the future. As a result, you can save 20+% on purchasing these futures of Bordeaux now. So there is an investment up front for it because you have to purchase by the case. And a lot of these exchanges that facilitate the futures require minimum investments. So it can be quite a bit of upfront investment. But even if you just like drinking First Growth or Grand Cru Bordeaux, it can be a great way to get your wine at a cheaper price point. Right now, they'll be selling futures for the 2020 and 2021 vintages, and you won't even take delivery of that till 2024 or so. So that'd be the kind of the second way to get into it. The third way is going to be there are companies that specialize in alternative investment strategies, and they allow you to invest in shares, fractional shares, like you would with like Bitcoin or something like that, or I think another company just started out doing the stock slices. So you can purchase fractional shares of bottles that maybe are $4,000 a bottle. You don't want to buy a $4,000 bottle, so you can buy a limited exposure to that, and then they sell it professionally, and then you can choose to sell your shares whenever you want. So it kind of almost acts more like a derivative market than a stock market sometimes, especially on the futures, because you can sell your shares, and these companies basically take out a lot of the cons that you would have if you self-store, but of course they don't do that for free. There's a fee involved with it.
Of course. Well, that is all really interesting. I really appreciate you educating me and our audience on wine and how to, and maybe some ways to invest in it. I'd love for you to finish up by telling us about Mary's Vine a little bit more. Again, I've had such incredible experiences every time I've been there, whether it's been for an event or just, coming for a glass of wine or for dinner. They have a great new chef who just has produced an incredible menu. But I know you have some regular features every week. Do you want to just tell the audience a little bit about those? And
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody to go and try it.
Yeah. So on Wednesdays, we have what's called Wine Education Wednesday. Every week is a different theme, but we do alternate a red week and a white week. This past week, actually yesterday, we highlighted sparkling wines. So it's $25 a person. It gives you the opportunity to try 3 wines, a flight of 3 wines that maybe you wouldn't have sought out yourself. So it gives you the opportunity to expand your wine horizons. Just because wine can be such an investment, ironically, up front, that you might look at that bottle and like, oh, it's $45. It's a commitment. If I don't like it, what do I do with it? Did I just cook with a $45 bottle of wine? So having so much by the glass and these guided flights are more approachable, give you the opportunity. It's not to say that you're going to like every single one of them, but you might discover a new favorite region in Argentina that you really enjoy the wines from that you wouldn't have tried yourself. And so we alternate the theme every week. So next week actually is going to be the difference between cooler and warmer climates and how that's perceived on the palate with the levels of acidity and ripeness. And that really is our Wine Education Wednesday. It's about 45 minutes to an hour. You're encouraged to ask questions and then, of course, stay for dinner or try some other things. That'll be every single Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And then depending on the Thursday, we do what we call Philanthropic Thursdays, where we highlight a specific charity. And then we donate a portion of the proceeds that night to that charity. So it's a fun way to get together and raise money for a cause. Right now, we don't have anything set in stone for every single Thursday, but we will be setting that up for the future for ongoing Thursdays. And then we have a date night special on Fridays where you can have a bottle of wine and 2 filet mignon dinners for a discounted price. And then, of course, our Sunday brunch, which is always fun. That's from 11 until about 2 o'clock, but we are open till 5. So Sunday brunch is always a fun time. It's lighter outside. We don't even really have to turn the lights on because our big cathedral windows allow so much light in there. It's always fun. Even when I'm working, that brunch is always a fun time.
And I know you're working downstairs a lot, so building out a cigar lounge, which is absolutely beautiful, a game room and maybe some outdoor areas. So I want to mention those.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're building out our cigar lounge downstairs. It's called The Study. And this is a 55-person cigar lounge. We call it The Study because if you closed your eyes and pictured an old world study, it's filled with mahogany and leather. We have a walk-in humidor. While upstairs is really focused on wine and education and experience, downstairs you can still purchase wine, of course, but it's more on the liquor, single malt scotch, bourbon, rye, whiskeys. And so we'll have 300 plus bottles of liquor for downstairs. So that's actually one of my tasks for today, is continuing to curate that list and go around to all the different state stores in West Pennsylvania and pick up the liquor. And then we have a game room attached to that. So it's an opportunity for you to gather and play poker with your friends while still being able to smoke cigars. I know I personally love to play poker and smoke cigars, but in the winter, I'm relegated to the garage because I can't smoke in my house and it's pretty cold out there. So I wanted to build a place where even in the winter, you can still gather with friends and enjoy that. With regards to the outdoor space, we are building an outdoor space. Unfortunately, it won't be finished this summer, but next summer. And we look forward to presenting that to the public, and that'll be called the Terraces at Mary's Vine.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to coming back soon, and I hope that I see some of our viewers there as well. Thank you so much again for taking the time to talk with me today and just educate us. If anyone watching is interested in talking further just about wine as an investment, please reach out to us at SD Wealth Management at schneiderdowns.com, and we can connect you with Jordan. Have a great day.